Hi, I'm Charys Schuler from SilvergrainClassics, and I'm sitting here today in the cozy coffee corner of the Silvergrain studio. I was actually going to have a nice coffee break, but Mavan came and said, "Hey, this is a great time to do the video about the most recent issue." So here I am doing the video about the most recent issue, which happens to be sitting here on the sofa next to me. Of course, we have them here in our cozy coffee corner. This is issue 17. It's just come out, and we're very excited about it. So, yeah, the first thing that happened when we were working on this issue was that our main anchor portfolio and a couple of interrelated articles suddenly we weren't able to use them for this issue. We're hoping to have them in the next issue. But fortunately, we always have so much great content. We have way more content than we can possibly use for the next, I don't know, probably 10 years. So we had to figure out replacements, but fortunately, all of the content that we have to choose from is really top notch, and I'm very, very happy with how the issue turned out. This issue was really interesting because we had a whole bunch of different points to go from, but in the end, it turned out to be the continuity of film photography. Our cover portfolio is from Michael Friede, he's got almost 7 decades of photos to choose from. Really amazing man with amazing pictures. And at the same time, we had some articles about the new Leica M6, which is, a recommitment to film from one of the biggest players in the industry. And they had some launch photographers who are young guys who are using their cameras in a completely different way. And this continuity of film photography was really interesting. We have a couple of articles that deal with the new M6 in this issue. One of them is an interview with Dr. Andreas Kaufmann, who is the CEO and owner of Leica. It was very interesting to talk to him because he is an unusual CEO, I have to say. I think everybody will be interested to see his opinions and how he sees film in relation to Leica camera. We also have a great article about the celebration of photography, which happened when Leica launched the M6. And the interesting thing is that almost our entire team was on site at the Leica headquarters in Wetzlar for that celebration of photography doing a workshop. So that was another thing that made this issue a little bit of a challenge because everybody was kind of very busy with that as well as being editorially busy. And then we also, of course, have an article about the actual camera itself. We have all the specs, but since we were able to test it out ourselves, we also have an article about the camera itself from Mavan. And I have to say, it's really a relief to be able to finally come out with this information since we did know about the camera quite a bit in advance of the launch. And while there were lots of rumors circulating, we couldn't say anything about it. So it's good to be able to finally publish. It's definitely not just about gear. SilvergrainClassics is always a good mix of things. We have a lot of portfolios, a lot of great pictures. We have some technical articles about, printing or composition, and a couple of gear things, and a lot of stories from the film community. So this issue is the same. We have a lot of different kinds of stories. We have some of the portfolios are very, very interesting this time. We have a man who is originally from Russia, Anton Ivanov, who has very recently come to Germany. And we have his wonderful photos, but we also have a little bit of his personal story, which I think gives a good background. We have a great portfolio from Mike Caputo, who lives on Hawaii. He's a firefighter. And he takes his camera to work with him. Okay, not into the middle of a really dangerous fire, but he does film his co-workers in fire situations. He has volcanic eruptions. It's a really interesting portfolio, not something we've had before. Yeah, we have the Leica launch photographers, like I mentioned before, 3 very different styles, and Michael Friede, our cover photographer. And please don't miss the stories underneath his images. I have to say, they are just a hoot. You will love them. I laugh every time I reread them myself. We have a great portfolio from the United States, Barbara McCabe. She does self-portraits, and she integrates herself into the landscape. It's very, very interesting work. And Sehara Nabas from Germany, who does some great alternative printing stuff. So we have a lot of inspiring portfolios. I hope that you will enjoy them. Yeah, well, we always have some articles that have technical insights. And we're lucky to have 2 master printer photographers, Bruce Bonbaum and Andrew Sanderson, who are regular contributors. And their insights are incredibly valuable. And it was interesting because the 2 of them, independently of each other, chose to talk about composition in this issue. And they come at it from completely different starting points, but they both have really hands-on tips for how to think about composition in photos. And of course, beautiful photos to illustrate their points. So I'm sure that everybody's going to really appreciate reading about that. And on the cinematography side, we have an interesting article from Jacob Dodd, who talks about how to do audio if you are using film cinema cameras. Maybe not a lot of people have thought about that too much, but if you want to go make a Super 8 video, your first Super 8 video or something, which a lot of people are starting these days, you don't quite realize, yeah, right, I have to mic the sound separately, and the camera isn't as quiet as a digital camera, and there are all sorts of different ways to do that and things to think about, and Jacob Dodd has a really great introduction to audio for film cinematography. We have stories from all around the film community, and of course, we have news from our industry partners, and one of those is Tetanal, and they've just come out with some new color developer tabs, and I was lucky enough to get to test them. Actually, they're not really out. We got a prototype, and so that was lots of fun, and I report about that in this issue. But we have stories from around the community. Our former intern, Lucas Mouton, he reports about a wonderful, famous lab in Paris where it's kind of a secret. You can't get there unless you know that it's already there. But they've been doing wonderful work for many, many years. And he also reported about his time with us at SilvergrainClassics. And then we have a great article from returning contributor Chris Chinnick, who is kind of our virtual connections author. That's usually somebody who's working in the online community for film. But this time, it was just too good of a story to pass up, even though it wasn't an online story, because he uses film photography to help support asylum seekers in the UK. And he did a project and reports about it. Well, if you want to know what an anthotype is, I'm afraid you're just going to have to buy the issue and read about it, because we have a great book review from our regular contributor, Christopher Osborne, who has a book from, I've forgotten, Malin Fabry, excuse me, Malin, who has just put out a book on anthotypes. And they're really beautiful images, and he talks to her about her work and also reviews the book. And the last article that we have that I haven't talked about yet is a cute little gear article about the Zeiss Icon Neta. And it's a very amusing article to read. It's lots of fun, and maybe it will motivate some people to go out and try that camera. It's definitely not going to give you the sharpest, most crystal clear images in the world, but it sure sounds like a lot of fun to use. Wow, well, of course, I might be just a little bit prejudiced, but I think it's really a great issue. And I have to say, I'm very proud of Silver Grain Classics in general. I genuinely am. I think it's a wonderful thing to have a print magazine like this. There is a lot of content, really valuable content, being put out online. And it's great to be able to just have that at your fingertips and research it. But it's an entirely different thing to have something printed and have it in your hand. I think that's something that a lot of film photographers can really appreciate too. When I just take this on my coffee break here, and I page through it, and I just see the quality of the reproductions, and I know that I can come back to them and look at them and reread them, and it's somewhere on my bookshelf, and I can take it down from my bookshelf and look at it and hold it in my hand. That's a completely different thing than thinking, oh, where did I find that information? I'm going to have to go back and Google it. And it's really different. And I also find that looking at images that are printed is a completely different thing than looking at images on an LCD screen. So I really hope that people will buy the magazine and appreciate it, and also will appreciate all the love that we pour into it.